Almost every day of the year, Gallup asks Americans to tell us about their day previous, that is yesterday, about how much happiness they had, enjoyment they had, how much stress they had, and how much worry they had. And then by calculating those numbers, we can get a read for day by day how Americans are feeling. Now, some good news here. In the year 2012 in general, there were just 3 days when less than 40% of Americans said they felt a lot of happiness without a lot of stress and worry. Now, that number had been as high as 12 and 14% previously, back in the recession of 08 and 09. So clearly, Americans are not having as many dark days now as they did just a few years ago. The fact that we do this every day allows us to pinpoint specific days when Americans were happiest and least happy. Let's look first at the days where Americans were least likely to say that they had happiness and enjoyment without a lot of worry and stress. A couple of these days were fairly random, it looked like to us. They were both Thursdays. November 29th, as you see in front of you, a Thursday, had a low level of happiness, and also the date February 16th, which was also a Thursday. However, the next 3 days, which were low in terms of happiness, were more identifiable. One of those was the day of the tragedy at Newtown, Connecticut. The mass shooting there, that was December 14th. Not a lot of happiness on that day, which makes sense. And then the other 2 days were related to the election. November 6th, which was election day itself, and then November 7th, the day after the election. Not a lot of happiness on those days. I don't think this was partisan, because that unhappiness came before the outcome was known for the most part on November 6th, but something about those 2 election days created a low level of happiness and enjoyment on the part of the American public. Now let's flip the coin and look at some good news. What were the happiest days of 2012? Well, they all coincided with, not shockingly, holidays. The single happiest day of the year was Christmas Day 2012, December 25th, when we had 66% of Americans telling us they had a lot of happiness and enjoyment without a lot of stress and worry. Other happy days in 2012, so to speak: Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, Mother's Day, and then interestingly, March 11th, which was the day that daylight savings time started. I guess people were happy because there was more sunshine on that day. So if you want to summarize it up, you can say that Americans generally were happy on holidays, and there were several days relating to specific events in the year 2012 when Americans were not that happy at all. By the way, one final finding, our data has shown consistently that the happiest day of the 7 days of the week is Friday, the day that people get off work. I'm Dr. Frank Newport, Gallup Editor-in-Chief.